Hey team, this is George. Appreciate all the hard work and effort you've put in throughout our entire time together. We are in week 8, and I want to give you, now that we've studied all these different psychological components of teaming, and leadership, I want to give you my experienced perspective from all this as well. Because when it comes down to, we looked at prejudice in 360 class divided, week 5, group think with the Abilene paradox, the Milgram experiment, where people just kind of blindly followed what they were supposed to do. And this week we're talking about diversity. So my experience has been this. It boils down to just a couple things. The first one is take 100% ownership of the team. If you are the leader, you're there to win. You're there. Your team is to come up with something that wins. You want to win. And when you take 100% responsibility, anything short of that, your responsibility as a leader. No matter what it is, there's something that you could have done to direct that team in a better way, where they could have won. That's the bottom line. That's from my perspective. Anytime that, as a leader, if you ever see a leader start pointing fingers at, well, this person didn't carry their weight, that person didn't carry their weight, always remember the old adage: when you point one finger, you have 3 more pointing back at you. That is very true in leadership. Don't point your fingers at anybody else. Yes, things happen, and we don't throw a blind eye to it or put on rose-colored glasses. We understand what it is. But as a leader, I have to take responsibility of it and fix it. How do I fix it? And most importantly, how do I adjust so it doesn't happen again? And what do I do so we can win? That's the big one right there. And to create a team so you don't have, so you start breaking down any prejudice, so you start getting away from the Abilene paradox or the Milgram experiment, where people just blindly follow leadership. It starts with you as well. You as a leader have 100% responsibility. And if your team is just blindly following, or they are falling into the group think, whose fault is that? The leader. So is my team my fault? Your team, your fault. And the way that we overcome that is, as a leader, we have to build that team cohesion. And the biggest way to do that, to overcome all this other stuff, is vulnerability. I don't know if you've seen any Brene Brown videos. She does a great talk about empathy and vulnerability. She talks about vulnerability being the birthplace of innovation and creativity, and it certainly is, because when we show our vulnerability, then our team members are able to show theirs, and now we're at a point where we can be creative because we're in a space where we're not judging each other. And that is a big deal. When we're in that space where we're not in judgment of each other, guess what? Abilene paradox doesn't happen. Prejudice goes away. You don't have people just blindly following leadership. They will feel free to question, and that is a wonderful thing. So vulnerability, and take 100% ownership. And if you do that, everything else kind of falls into place. And that brings us to week 8, diversity. Why is a diverse team important? Well, right now I don't know any business other than small businesses that are not global. Even a lot of small businesses are global. We have to have multiple perspectives. Like, there's an old saying, if everybody's thinking the same way, somebody's not thinking. And that is very true. So we need that diversity of perspective, diversity of thought. And whose fault is it if your team's not diverse? Team leader's fault. 100% my fault if it's my team, 100% your fault if it's your team. So if you take that ownership, you're going to find that excuses go out the door, and your team members appreciate all that you do within your teams. So that's my perspective on teaming and team leadership, and that's how I was able to pull off a lot of extraordinary feats in the aerospace industry, as far as in the training department, manufacturing areas, things like that, because I depended on my team. I was vulnerable, showed them my weaknesses, and then, you know what, they came to the table to support. And bring all of their strengths, show their weaknesses, and when that happened, other people showed up to shore up those weaknesses. So it was absolutely fantastic the way that turned out every single time. Uh, when I was 100, there were times when I started being a leader where I did not take ownership, and those were some very hard lessons to learn. So take 100% ownership, make no excuses, find out what happened, what went wrong, and fix it. Is kind of the bottom line. And always strive for the most simplistic of um, ways to fix it. The more complex, more moving parts something has, more probability that it will not work. So this is just my thought and perspective on teams and leadership, because I really enjoy working with teams and have had a lot of great success with them. So I wish you all the success in the world with your teaming and everything else. So have a great week, and I look forward to wrapping this up.